Hey guys, how's it going? We are taking a deep dive into how to nail that iOS job interview so you can get familiar with this type of technical questions and get that job position you are working hard for. Let's go deep. In this video, we are looking at the top 5 iOS job interview questions on strings. Strings, as you know, are a very important data type on iOS and pretty much any other programming language. So it's no surprise that the subject comes up on job interviews, whether directly or indirectly inserted in other more complex topics. So here's my top 5 iOS questions about strings using Swift. As number 1, we have repeated characters in a string. This question was already covered in a previous video, so here's the problem. We want a function that has a string as input and returns true if the string has only unique characters and false otherwise. Now pause the video and try to complete this challenge. There are 2 ways to solve this kind of challenges. First, try a brute force approach. Create an array of characters, loop through every character on the string, check the content of the array using the function contains. If it fails, you can return false right there. If you reach the end of the input string, then return true. Another way of solving this problem is to use a set, which cannot contain duplicate elements in it. The magic here is that you can create a set by giving the string as an input. If the sizes don't match, then we have repeated characters. So there we go. As number 2, given 2 strings, do they contain the same characters? We want to write a function that accepts 2 strings as input parameters and returns true if there are any repeated characters and false otherwise. Now pause the video and give it a try. One way of doing this is by copying the second string into a variable that we call checked string. Then you can loop over the first string and check if each letter exists in the second string. If it doesn't, you can return false. If it does, remove it so it won't be checked again. If you get to the end of the first string, return true only if the second copy string is empty. A more efficient way would be to create arrays from the 2 input strings, sort those arrays, and check if they are equal. As number 3, we want to count the number of characters in a string. We want a function that accepts a string as input and returns how many times a certain character appears. Pause the video now. One simple option is to loop through the characters, comparing them against the character we want to check. So it's that easy. A slightly trickier way of doing this is by calculating how many times the character appears in the input string by removing it and then comparing the lengths of the input and the end result. As number 4, we want to condense whitespaces in a string. We want a function that accepts a string as input and replaces any consecutive whitespaces into a single whitespace. Pause the video and give it a go. As usual, there is a naive solution and a more trickier solution. The naive solution is, for instance, to write a loop over the characters in the input string. If the current letter was a space, and we have already seen a space in this run, continue to the next letter. Otherwise, mark a flag saying, we have seen a space. If it wasn't a space character, then clear the flag and append it to an output string. If you use regular expressions, you can turn all of that into a single line of code. In regular expressions lingo, space plus means match one or more spaces. and we replace it with a single space, like this. And last, as number 5, find the string containing every letter of the alphabet, also known as a pangram. We want a function that returns true if in fact it contains every letter of the alphabet at least once. If you want to try it yourself, pause the video now. If we think that in Swift a character conforms to the comparable protocol, we can compare a character with A and Z to ensure it is alphabetic. Then all we have to do is remove any duplicates using a set, for instance, and ignore case by using lowercase. Then comparing the count, it should be 26 in the end. So that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the solutions. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you found this tutorial useful. I would really appreciate it. I'll see you on the next video.